Battery problems are without a doubt the biggest issue with electric cars, and the adoption of EVs have always been hampered by this component. To begin with, electric cars were too expensive to make an affordable one that wasn't a snoozer. Despite the substantial drop in lithium-ion battery prices, supply is still a barrier to the growth of the sector. Too few are available to meet growing demand. We now have this infuriating situation where people who want electric cars and can't afford them can't have them because no one can build them fast enough to supply the demand for new vehicles. With this, watch this video until the end to find out about the new revolution of Tesla as their batteries are getting better and better. Right now, nickel is one of the biggest sticking points in the battery supply chain. Nickel is difficult to find and mine, and it is heavily influenced by Russian supply on the global market. RJ Scaringe, CEO of Rivian Motors, recently stated that the battery shortage would shut down the electric car industry harder than the chip shortage and might last for 10 to 20 years. Even though it sounds grim, if battery manufacturers continue to manufacture and use the same materials and manufacturing methods they currently use, RJ's prediction may not be far off. While Tesla is moving into its scaling up phase, this is an issue the company is already considering. As Elon Musk promised, Tesla will need an extreme supply of batteries to keep up with its promise of growing to extreme size. To do this, they cannot put all the eggs in one basket, or in this case, one chemistry of the battery. Therefore, Tesla is essentially diversifying its battery portfolio. It will be based on the tried and true formulas alongside some new experimental ideas that could pay big dividends over time. So which battery designs have the potential to save the EV revolution? We are all familiar with that one word, diversification. It's another concept Tesla specifically mentions in their first financial report of 2022, where they write, and I quote, "Diversification of battery chemistries is critical for long-term capacity growth to better optimize our products for their various use cases and expand our supplier base." This is why nearly half of Tesla vehicles produced in the first quarter were equipped with lithium iron phosphate batteries containing no nickel or cobalt. Currently, LFP batteries are used in most of our standard range vehicle products as well as commercial energy storage applications. They are saying in this case that Tesla is currently experimenting with two battery chemistries. Nickel, cobalt, and manganese are the old standby formulas in their 2170 and 1865 cells. With 1865, the Model S and X will be powered, while 2170 will power the Model 3 and Y, which will be long-ranged and high-end. There's no doubt that Tesla vehicles do better with their competitors in terms of acceleration and range due to their amazing batteries, which combine high energy density and power output. Additionally, they are quite expensive due to the use of exotic metals in their composition. The second half is the iron-based cell that is used to power the new Model 3 rear-wheel drive, which has been sold around the world, and the Model Y Standard, which is only available in China. In comparison, these cells are incredibly cheap due to their iron cathode, the same material used to make pots and pans. Hence, we can infer from this that the Model 3 rear-wheel drive with 270 miles of range, give or take, depending on the wheel selection, that is responsible for about half of all Tesla sales for the first quarter of 2022. In addition, it is worth mentioning that Tesla's Vice President for Engineering, Drew Baglino, followed up with this very interesting comment about the transition to LFP chemistry of the American-made Model 3. He said, "Half of our products were LFP last quarter, which shows how quickly we were able to respond. But honestly, it wasn't because of a raw material shortage, it just seemed like the right thing to do. We could change our cathode chemistry, and there's much more to be done on the cathode side, and we are actively pursuing it to give us substitution flexibility in response to market conditions between the other cathodes that are out there that can be competitive in our vehicle. There are many options." This is an important quote that we should remember in the future. As he points out, the company managed to change battery chemistries pretty quickly, and not just because it was forced on them, but purely because it was the right thing to do at the time. This came many months before the current nickel crisis. Then he states that Tesla might change their cathode chemistry again for the products if a better option was to become available, and that they are proactively investigating these options so they can use the best possible chemistry. That is an incredibly smart move. Further, most Chinese makers of electric cars have already switched to LFP batteries based on this strategy. Even top-tier Chinese manufacturers like BYD and NEO are developing their versions of traditional LFP battery packs. Also, BYD has developed a new cell format called the Blade, in which the long, thin rectangle cells resemble one of those funny anime swords. As for NEO, they have introduced a hybrid battery pack that combines both NCM and LFP cells for the best of both worlds. In the meantime, most of the auto industry that isn't Tesla or Chinese is still just YOLOing into the nickel chemistry when it's at an all-time high, and shows no signs of changing anytime soon. In this way, you'll end up living in a shed, but I wouldn't know. What are the many other options besides LFP that Drew referred to? We can consider the possibility of manganese battery cells, since Elon Musk himself has mentioned this option a few times in the past. Thus, it should be of interest for him. For the foreseeable future, Elon reiterated during the GIGA Berlin opening celebration that Tesla, like the rest of the industry, will rely on nickel-based chemistries for long-range vehicles and iron phosphate for short-range vehicles. Elon did add a quick but interesting comment about manganese-based batteries, saying, "I think there's an interesting potential for manganese." This echoes what Elon Musk told the crowd at New York City's Battery Day event back in September 2020, when he was talking about Tesla's 4680 battery experiments. As Elon said back then, Tesla could quit using cobalt altogether and substitute manganese for a nickel, if possible, to reduce nickel consumption. Elon said, "It is relatively straightforward to do a cathode that's 2/3 nickel and 1/3 manganese, which will allow us to make 50 more cell volumes with the same amount of nickel." Then, bringing it back to 2022 event in Berlin, Elon said it does not matter what the battery is made of, so long as it's sustainable. The manganese-based cell doesn't exist in a vacuum. Well, they do, but they aren't very common. In the past, Tesla has used manganese-rich cathode cells in its Powerwall home battery, and Nissan used cathode-rich manganese cells in its Leaf electric car, which was the world's best-selling electric vehicle for many years before the Model 3. The idea is very promising and could even serve as a halfway point between lithium-ion and LFP batteries. In the past, several research groups have published papers on the manganese-rich cathode batteries that may offer unique benefits because they may be more sufficient than iron phosphate batteries and more affordable than nickel-rich batteries. Additionally, there is the field of speculative battery chemistry. Researchers are pretty sure that these ideas could work in the electric vehicle industry, but they have yet to demonstrate their effectiveness in the real world. A great example of this is solid-state batteries. Electric cars would seem to solve all of our problems if solid-state electronics were used. With this, they should be able to manufacture these cells cost-effectively. They'd be easy to manufacture, they would charge extremely fast, and they would completely resist burning into flames when damaged. Although solid-state technology has been around for decades, we still do not have a functioning product to speak of. It's merely a very good idea. There's also an idea that graphene may be used as a battery material in the future. The graphene is one of the modern wonders of nature, despite being 200 times more powerful than steel, and much lighter than steel. It is almost transparent and conducts electricity better than copper. Again, this is another great idea, in theory, to make batteries with, and there are many people engaged in exploring it. Probably not at least for a decade, maybe even 2. When it comes to battery technology, we should keep an eye on the future, just as Tesla did. What are your thoughts on the possibility that Tesla could be developing a solid-state battery, or even top-secret next-generation battery chemistry behind closed doors? Share your thoughts with us on the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you would like to receive updates on Elon Musk and his companies, make sure you click the subscribe and bell button.